All right, welcome back to the SilmFilm script discussion, season 3, episode 8. Wow, we're about 3/4 of the way through almost. This is crazy. We've got some fire in this episode. In case that was a shock to anybody, the Feanorians do some bad things, which Marie is very excited about for very, very terrifying and scary reasons.
Oh, whatever. Like you've never set anything on fire.
Well, of course I've set things on fire.
My point, it's fun. Okay.
This reminds me of last season. I feel like I'm going to get this sort of moment when we get to Turin.
Yes, exactly.
Last season, not last, the first season, it was Ungoliant and Karita's unhealthy obsession with Ungoliant.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not
Which I understand looks creepy from the outside, but it was so much fun.
Yeah. Made even more creepifying that as when she dressed up as her at Mythmoot. Yeah.
That was an awesome idea, though.
It was a good idea. Anyway, so.
Like as a spider form?
Yeah.
Well, she did a spider web, like jewelry kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a.
Yeah, she wasn't actually
a spider. She did not turn herself into a spider, but
yeah.
I mean, she went for the idea of spider.
All right. So anyway, let's kind of get a breakdown of what we're doing this episode because, spoiler alert, we're gonna burn some ships,
and some person.
And a person, and yes, sadly, a person will and must die. However, we also have to deal with the journey over, trying to get some perspectives from different Sons of Feanor and how differently they view what's going on. We need to get some stuff before they leave because we're taking a very short step back in time of maybe a few hours. Hours, ha 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 ha. There's no hours, but hours. Anyway, what else do we need?
Mostly it's the ship journey and then the burning of the ships. We need to have Círdan's storyline to see him traveling up the coast where he misses those ships but then sees them burn later. So at the tail end, he can be there. We have to have Beleg go back to Menegrath and through like the probably Syrian via that direction most likely because he was also at Eglarest when it was attacked. And we have to have Bulldog move into southern Beleriand because he's been kind of setting up camp up in the hills near Himring, and he's been doing his raiding from there. And he got a message from Thorengwithel at the very end of the last episode saying, "Get off your butt and go find the elves," instead of just complaining that they're not here.
Right.
So that camp is moving out and moving into southern Beleriand and just destroying things as they go. Still not finding a lot of elves, but getting ready for the battle in the next episode.
So the first battle is okay. Help me remember because it's confusing to be doing the script discussion several weeks behind, a couple weeks behind discussion on the forum, and we just discussed the battle.
Right.
That's going to be in.
That's going to be in the next episode, not the one we're talking about tonight. So, however, the first battle properly has already begun. As Tolkien describes it, the first battle has already begun.
The first battle.
At the Havens. That's already started because the battle itself is more, as he describes it, is more of an actual war campaign than an actual single battle. Which makes sense because the battles that he was used to, the battles that he fought in, were these large, sprawling things that went on for tens of miles and took months.
He was also familiar with historical battles, of course.
Of course he was, but but it makes kind of sense that this would be his first way to think about battle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the other issue for him is part of why the Western Front has to be a campaign rather than a single battle is because he wanted the orcs to be down in Beleriand when Feanor arrived so that they could come up to reinforce the orc army in the north, which is what the whole side story about Celegorn driving the army into the swamp and destroying them before. Anyway, there's a whole story with that, and that only works if there's an army to come up the coast to try to join the other army.
Yeah.
So he was trying to kind of combine that, so he needed the Western Front to be a long-term siege, so they'd still be around to fight the Feanorians coming in.
And this is where I think, you know, if you, you know, in the Lost Road, where you look at the Annals of Valinor, and he had this set up where the years, you know, the sequence of years, and each year is 10 years long, and then he was like, wait, no, that's silly, and he compressed the timeline so that it was in the equivalent of solar years, and then when he wrote the Annals of Aman, he undid it, and I think that was a mistake.
Well, you win and lose things when you do it either way, and he went back and forth on what he was trying to accomplish, so for certain reasons it works.
Your Siege of the Havens with no navy.
Exactly, you can't. So it's not a siege. So it's just a standoff. And what's the point?
On the Helcaraxa and Thangarodrim for decades.
Yeah.
It just turns into these things that, like, you look at it logically and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And how?
Yeah, it doesn't work, and he knew that and was playing with it to try to make it somewhat more reasonable.
And then he was like, every year of Aman is 144 years long. No. Anyway.
Yeah. So,
but luckily for our viewers, we're not giving them those.
There's no time frames.
Right. So we're not suggesting how long things are, and so it's only going to be as long as it seems on screen, which has disadvantages, obviously, but allows us to kind of flow events one into the other, with it just seeming like time generically passing instead of, well, was this a 1-year thing or a 10-year thing? Who knows? There's no sun and moon.
Yeah.
The stars might even be fixed. Who knows?
All right. So knowing kind of where we're going in the in our main story, we kind of have to talk about where we'd like to go with our frame, so that the execs can think it's silly later.
Well, we're about to the point in the frame where Estelle should make a mistake that costs Hamilcar his life.
Can I just ask briefly, is this the episode where Fingolfin decides to cross the Helcaraxa, or did we delay that until next episode?
The actual decision to it's kind of rough. The actual decision to cross the Helcaraxa is going to happen in the next episode. However, we need to be very careful with this, that we're not having Fingolfin making the same decision every single episode.
Which is kind of hard, because he has to decide to go north rather than turn back to Valinor at this point.
Right. But we have to make careful that we're structuring these choices very differently, so that it doesn't look like we're just doing the same thing over and over again.
I know.
How many times can we have Fingolfin vacillate over whether or not he's going to Middle-earth? But we're going to deal with the actual reality of the Helcaraxa when we get there in episode 9. Right now,
at all until they've gone far enough north to looked around enough to rule out any possible crossing other than the Helcaraxa.
Right.
I don't think he's vacillated at all. He's
right.
Like, I hate Feanor and I am going forward and I am going to spit in his face or something. I don't know what.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to, that I kind of think is going to be kind of a driving force of him going forward in this episode. Because Feanor is about to betray him big time. Also, one other thing that I neglected is they wanted to do some kind of vision that the ships had burned or something like that to illustrate, so that they have an inkling. They don't know for sure, but they have an inkling that Feanor has betrayed them.
The focus on the storyline on the shore this time is that they're trying to figure out what it means that the ships have gone. So some people obviously immediately jump to the conclusion that Feanor has betrayed us and stolen the ships, which is a reasonable conclusion considering that's what really happened. Other people are urging some kind of let's wait and see attitude of, well, maybe he did, but maybe he's coming back and maybe he just, whatever.
I think so. Finrod can take that tack. Or no, Finrod and Arthel and maybe Finrod.
Yeah, we've got a few pointers of who needs to take certain points of view, but others characters are open-ended as far as what approach they can take. And so there's some differences of opinion on, do we need to make a decision now, or can we just wait around and see what happens? And then Turgon is the one who's going to have the vision. That's been decided.
Right.
And once that knowledge is shared, it's like, okay, now we have to make our own decision. Clearly, it's over.
Because then they know it's certain.
Yeah.
And Fingolfin has to be the final voice making that call of what to do.
Right. So what I'm thinking about for the frame, because I don't think that we're quite ready to go to do the Hamilcar desperately trying to rescue Estelle thing quite yet.
We're getting close, though.
We're getting close there, but I don't think we're there yet. What
Like
might
next
be interesting is if Estelle were to betray Hamilcar in this
Aw.
episode.
On purpose?
Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. They have. I know. So here's what I'm thinking. In the last episode, we had them wandering off together.
Right. They kind of
They
I'm
don't like each other. Right. They don't like each other, but they wander off together. I'm suggesting that things are so ugly between them that Estelle finally says, "You know what? In the middle of the night, he gets up and he leaves Hamilcar. I'm not saying he actually actively betrays him. I'm saying that he leaves him.
No, he just they go their separate ways.
Right. But Hamilcar is not aware that Estelle has done this when Estelle does it, is what I'm suggesting.
Right.
I want to avoid.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're headed with that.
I know that 16-year-old Aragorn is going to behave like a 16-year-old,
Right.
and that he's not very mature right now.
Mhm.
But there's two things I want to avoid: dishonorable and whiny.
Yeah. And I agree with you.
And I mean, I don't want him to be dumb. I mean, foolish in an immature way, but not like
right.
Indulgence way.
What I'm suggesting is that the split that they have, that the disagreement that they have is believable, as both of them have kind of a valid point, and Estelle is not like leaving Hamilcar to die or anything like that. That's not the optics I'm looking for
here. He's just
here.
deciding he doesn't want to spend any more time with this guy, and he's going to take off rather than talk.
Right, who he didn't like in the first place.
Yeah. There are some issues with that, in that the reason they agreed to team up was that both of them are smart enough to know that going on this weird wolf hunt in the wintertime by themselves would be a dumb thing to do, but if they go together, it's a safer thing to do. So they made it as a practical choice.
Right.
So his motivation for breaking that deal would have to be fairly strong.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
And it can't be Hamilcar calling him dumb or inexperienced or anything. Like, it can't be Hamilcar saying, "You're a dumb little kid."
Right.
And he's like, "Well, I'm going to show you." Like, it can't be like that.
How old is Hamilcar? Like 18 or 17? Like,
he's older than 60.
But he's not an adult yet.
And not older than 20.
Right.
He's younger than 20.
Well,
yes.
But not by much.
When do the Dunedain consider their sons warhigh? I mean, I don't think it's as late as 30. I mean, they might not consider people full adults until 30 or something like that. But like,
hobbits are considered adults at 33, which is unusual. Dunedain shouldn't be much different from regular human beings as far as maturity goes, because the whole half-elven thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to say that Hamilcar is probably 18, 19, somewhere in that neighborhood. He's young enough where he's still not like, he's not ready to like get married and have kids.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I think it should be that in Dunedain society, you don't get married and have kids when you're less than 30 years old.
Yeah, Dave says that Hobbit adulthood is more like land holding maturity, something like 25-ish in classic English gentry. I agree.
Yeah.
That has a lot more to do with like
that.
like you're legally you're not worried that somebody's going to do something stupid with like the family farm or or something of that nature.
Yeah. For instance, Pippin's 29 in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
The Dunedain do have longer lifespans, and although they grow pretty much at the same rate as other mortals, they expect to live.
Just age. So the old age thing comes on more slowly. That's the main difference.
Let me see. Okay, how old was Gilraen when she got married? When her parents were like
young.
Young.
She was young. That was the whole point. Is that her mother and father weren't sure about letting her get married to Arathorn because she was so young, and she was still in her 20s when that happened. Like she was not 18.
She was in her 20s, and that was considered too young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty unusual with a woman.
Yeah.
In the equivalent of a medieval or ancient
society. And her husband
like,
was older.
50.
So he was, was he like in his late 40s or something?
He was 56.
50s? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So obviously they're more of the get married a little bit older type people.
Yeah. Almost
so
like
Hamilcar as an 18, 19, 20-year-old, he's a kid, too young to get married.
Yeah. So
like there are plenty of examples of 20-year-olds being immature doofuses.
If you want to give Hamilcar something to say that will immediately get a rise out of Estelle and have it be believable that he's not just being immature, that this is somebody that he just can't work with, you could have him insult his mother.
I was thinking you were heading in that direction.
His mother is.
Right, that's what I mean. Like his mother's nobody. He's nobody. He just happens to live with the elves.
Uh-huh.
And Estelle has been told several episodes ago not to reveal who his mother is, because as soon as he starts telling who his mother is, everybody knows who he is.
Yes.
It becomes obvious to everybody. It's kind of an open secret amongst a lot of the Dunedain who he is, but not everybody knows. And Hamilcar certainly doesn't know.
Figured it out because he's hanging out with the Sons of Elrond and they're threatening to take him home.
Right, but they don't. But there's no reason that they. But not everybody knows that Gilrain is alive.
Not everyone
calling
knows.
him pampered yet, but we've kind of been there already, Dave. He suggests calling him pampered rather than insulting his mother, which I get it. And I'm not suggesting like a schoolyard your mama joke or anything like that. But we've kind of done the pampered thing. Like we've been there a couple of times now.
He is pampered compared to the other Dunedain.
He absolutely is, and we went. That's why we've kind of been there.
Well, that's the thing, is that if Hamilcar has agreed to let Estelle come with him, then obviously they've gotten past that enough that he's not gonna say or do something that immediately is like, oh, well, I guess you would never survive out here on your own. Like, he's not gonna say that to a guy he agreed to go with.
Maybe, but
there's a little bit of a, if they agreed to travel together last episode, what changed that they're insulting to each other to the point of I can't be around you in this episode? Like, we need something to have changed.
Right.
Both of them have been trained to some extent to survive in the wild, because both need to be rangers. Aragorn has probably had I mean, he has less experience in the wild.
Less practical experience, yeah.
Less practical experience, but he knows a lot.
Yes.
Right.
So
he's well educated.
Hamilcar is like, you're not going to be the boss of me. A, I'm older, and B, I resent the way that all the adults treat you like you're special for absolutely no apparent reason. So maybe Hamilcar is trying to boss Aragorn around, and Aragorn never been treated like that.
Well,
yeah, that makes more sense as to what could get them to the point of blows.
Yeah, no, I like that too. Maybe especially if Estelle is suggesting a course of action based on his knowledge, right? It could even be something that that Hamilcar's never heard before.
Yeah, and Hamilcar resents being showed up by the guy who has all this special elvish knowledge because, oh yeah, well, who are you? Why are the elves raising you? You don't even have parents?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we can stay away from the like it was the your mama thing was kind of a shot in the dark, but we don't.
Well,
we
it's
don't
the
have
idea
to
of what would upset somebody, but I think it needs to be a who's in charge between the two of them. They've agreed to travel together, but
which will parallel the Fingolf and Feanor rivalry as well. So
yes, but I don't want it to be just that, because Aragorn. I mean, it can start with that, but the actual thing that what would actually be enough for Aragorn to leave him can't just be that. I think I like the suggestion of it being something about his mother, what's going to happen with Turin and Cyros, and because, although less violently, but also because like Aragorn is not. I mean, the way that he handles the accession to the throne, when it's like the condition for him to get married and ever have kids and save his people, and it's really important to him, is like he's so gracious about it, and he's not demanding of honors. And like I don't think he's, and maybe that's character development, but I don't think he's the kind of guy to be like, I mean, he's never had his status challenged or been made to feel like he needs to defend his status. So I don't think he's going to be sensitive about it.
Well,
But his
I think he could. Well, maybe instead of just his mom, maybe it could be more of, you know, you're nothing, you're nobody, and Estelle doesn't really have a good comeback to that because he doesn't have any idea who he really is.
Yeah. Well, and you know, Hamakar can say you're not one of us. I mean, Estelle has grown up all his life knowing he's human and not knowing anything about even who his people are. They just told him that he's one of the Dunedain, and for the first time, he has something to build his identity on, and he's a teenager, so he wants that. And then this kid is attacking his newly forming identity of himself as a Dunedain.
Yeah, I think we want a combination of motivations here, and one could be the initial conflict over who makes the choice of what to do on, you know, XYZ situation, and Estelle thinks he has the right idea, and Hamilcar dismisses his knowledge, so now he feels like they're trying to do a decision-making thing while ignoring the really key important detail that he brought up. So he might not trust the decision that's been made, and Hamilcar's response is, you're younger than me, you don't know anything about this, and therefore I'm the one in charge, and you don't know how our people work, and I'm just ignoring your input because you're nothing and you're worthless. So there's that put down of his value, denying his identity, and ignoring the good decision that Aragorn came up with. If you put all that together and he's 16, he might not respond as graciously as he would as an 88-year-old adult who totally knows his own place in the world.
Yes. And of course, he doesn't respond the way Turin does by like,
no,
the guy.
But he hasn't had the difficult background that Turin had.
No, of course.
You know, he lost his father when he was 2, but other than that, Estelle's had a really easy life.
Well, I mean, he's had a fairly easy life, but it is weird being one of only 2 humans in a society of elves.
I'm not saying, well, and as a teenager that matters. That's difficult with the identity concept, but
it's more of a first world problem in a way.
Yeah, yes, it is.
He's well cared for and safe, and people do things for him, and people treat him well.
Yeah. Okay.
In his home in Rivendell.
So what's the decision point? I mean, is it as simple as which direction they're going? Are they trying to track
their goal is to find the wolves and kill them, so it has to be a tracking the wolves situation to start with. As to what they disagree over, I don't know.
Okay. I'm thinking about like every book I've read about, you know, about people hunting back in, you know, tracking things back when I was a kid, and about all the different tricks that animals use to divert a we don't want to end up with Hamilcar as a straw man either. I agree. What he says has to be valid from Hamilcar's perspective. For example, from Hamilcar's perspective, there is absolutely no reason for Estelle to be getting the kind of deference that he's getting. None. Nobody's telling him anything.
No.
Nobody's like, and Estelle isn't telling him because he can't tell him. Right. And the only clue that Estelle has, he's been specifically instructed not to divulge to protect his mother. And that's the name of his mother. That's the only clue he has. Okay, so what if it's a point like they've been tracking a small group of wolves, and they come to a stream and they lose the trail, and so it's a disagreement of which direction.
Upstream or downstream. Yeah.
Right. Which they would have gone to. I suggest that we do some research into this and figure out what the actual correct way to go is. But my question is, which of them has the correct answer? The actual correct answer. Because that's what's important. It's not important which way is the right way. But the important thing is who should have the right answer.
Hamilcar has likely tracked animals before because he's done some hunting,
Right.
but probably not wolves. This is supposed to be a new threat.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's anything specific to wolves, Hamilcar might not have the particular background that makes him any smarter in this particular situation than Estelle, who's also untried in the wild at this point.
I mean,
so anything Estelle knows is from either talking to somebody who's done it or reading a book. Which
Estelle has probably hunted
within Rivendell. Sure, he's done some hunting, but there's no wolves in Rivendell.
No, not hunted. Has never hunted normal animals, but neither, or Estelle at least, has not hunted any monsters. And Hamilcar probably has. I mean, the thing is, Hamilcar has experience. I don't know. I mean, both of them have been exposed to people who potentially would talk about these things with them in the context of training them or just talking about it in front of them. But Hamilcar is more experienced.
All right. Why don't we come to a decision when we get back? I should have put us on a break for a long time ago. If you're watching us live, hang in there. We'll be right back. If you're watching us on YouTube in the future, definitely like and share the videos if you like and want to share them. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe so you can get all this delivered right to your mobile device or computer screen. Check out the links below for information on the SilmFilm project, Signum University, Mythgard Academy, and Mythmoot 5, which I'm trying to maybe squeeze one day. If I could get there for one day, I think I'll be satisfied. But hopefully that. It's going to be really exciting. Anyway, we'll be back in a minute.